Welcome to the Manchester Movie Morgue podcast.
Murder victims show evidence of having been partially devoured by their murderers. In all cases, the killers are eating the flesh of the people they murdered. Repeating this, in all cases, the killers are eating the flesh of the people they murdered.
So the Fanatic, yeah. So the first thing I noticed, Lee and Rob, was the first thing we should say is that it's John Travolta stars in this film, Fanatic, made in 2019, and I wonder what's kept it. It's quite late on in 2020, and it seems, I wonder if they had problems either releasing it or getting it out, or it just seems a long time. In this kind of day and age. John Travolta plays a character called Moose, who I believe is autistic. And Lee and Rob, I don't know if was this mentioned at all in the film. It said on the sleeve notes that he was autistic.
Travolta's confirmed in interviews he is on the spectrum, so it doesn't mention it in the movie, but yeah, it is.
So the character is autistic. I just found it really funny that they didn't mention it at all. This kind of
and he doesn't. There's no other characters tease him and mock him, but he doesn't actually ever get called. They never actually diagnose him, do they? So
the film starts with that inspirational fake quotes from Hunter Dunbar.
Oh yes, without the fans, we're nothing, kind of thing. And this is what the other character says. The other character's called Hunter.
Hunter Dunbar.
Is it Hunter Dunbar?
Hunter Dunbar, yeah.
Hunter Dunbar, and he's
played by Devon Sawa, I think it is, isn't it? The guy who did Stan, who played Stan in the Eminem video.
Is that who he was?
I remember that. Yeah,
he was so skinny in that.
Oh, well done, Lee. Good bit of research.
He was in a couple of good films actually. There's a comedy horror from the 90s, a bit of a stoner horror called Idle Hands. That's definitely worth checking out if you've not seen it.
Oh, I have seen that. Yeah.
You're full of all good recommendations of films that I've not seen. Let me just write that.
And I think he's in The Final Destination, or one of them at least, the first one, I think.
When Final Destination, before it became a pile of shit. It was he was in that one.
Yeah. Good.
I actually thought he was pretty good in it. Really, I thought his acting was pretty decent. Really, fine performance.
Really. He's okay. He comes off not too badly. So Travolta is an autistic collector of movie memorabilia, and someone who he lives in LA, in Hollywood, and he's obsessed with Hollywood and movies, and he's obsessed in particular with one actor who's a fictional actor called Hunter Dunbar, and he's played by Lee, as you said. He's what's his name again?
Devon Sawa. Devon Sawa.
Yeah. So that's and these are kind of the main parts of the plot. The title of Fanatic is someone who's fanatic about something, is a bit overzealous about something. It might be a religion or obsessed with something, and this is definitely relating to the John Travolta character, I think.
Yeah, his whole world and motivation is this one guy, and it gives him the embodiment of everything that the dream of living in Hollywood. That's who Hunter Dunbar is in the film.
Starts with an amazing first line. I don't know about you. He walks into the collectibles shop in Hollywood.
Yes.
He's like, can't talk long. Got a poo.
I can't talk too long. I got a poo.
It's literally, we are given milliseconds to adjust to, and we'll talk about this, I'm sure, the look of John Travolta in this film, which is like the best hairpiece in the world, a mullet hairpiece, and the loudest Hawaiian shirt, and
it's kind of shaved above the ears, isn't it?
Yeah, and he's got a paunch, and he's like stumbling around, and so it takes you a few seconds to think, shit, because when you look at the box cover, you think that's not John Travolta. I thought it was someone else. And then suddenly think, shit, that is John Travolta. because he does that John Travolta smile occasionally.
Yes,
And
it
then
does come out. Yeah, there's a few little scenes where he kind of has a bit of. I don't know if they're
yeah,
meant to be humorous or slightly kind
but
of
then
whimsical, but yeah, there's a bit of that kind of
And we
Travolta.
should talk about the wig as well. The piece
it's
is
amazing, isn't it?
The syrup.
it's
It needs a credit, its own film credit.
yeah.
It's brilliant.
It's definitely 2020 lockdown hair, isn't it? It's definitely got a pandemic vibe going on.
Is it? Is it a
He's,
syrup? Is it a syrup? Is it a syrup? Is
uh,
it real hair?
I think it used to live on Terry Wogan's head at one time.
It might have done. It might have
or
escaped.
Paul Daniels, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Or maybe like a gust of wind has blown Paul Weller's hair off and landed on John Travolta. Now.
But I mean, this is with credits and stuff, but like for an actor to actually make himself look that awful is a big step, isn't it? Because actors can be
Yeah.
quite vain, and I've never seen Travolta look this terrible. So when I first
Oh,
saw that,
I don't know, Rob. I don't know about that. He's had a good go. He's got
You
close.
see, Look Who's Talking 3. Come on,
yeah,
yeah.
but when I first I couldn't. It took me a good 5 to 10 minutes just to get over him looking like that. But yeah,
There's
Do you think-
something engrossing about his performance, though, isn't it? It's hard to take your eyes off. You just don't know what he's going to do next, really, do you? He's kind
That's
of
right. And actually,
Yeah.
watching a car
line,
crash in slow motion or something.
the first line just immediately kind of throws you because hang on, if you didn't know about the autism angle of the character, you think what's going on here? He said, "Oh, I
Yeah.
can't poo too long. I've got to poo," and he looks the way he does. It does kind of it throws you off balance. I'd say to start with.
and it's almost like autism 101, isn't it? If you had an actor and like a method actor shop and you said play autistic, and then they keep on trying to copy Dustin Hoffman from Rain Man and keep on saying I like driving on a Sunday, and it's almost like he didn't trust himself to play it straight autism. He had to dress the part and have the weird haircut.
Yeah.
He didn't trust his acting chops to just pull it off,
No,
and he had to look as so ridiculous.
Well, that's the point. But John Travolta's no Dustin Hoffman or Al
No.
Pacino. I'd say he's he's a good charismatic actor, but yeah, I don't think he's got the chops really to do a realistic portrayal like that. So he needs the props, he needs the hair, he needs the
mention
mannerisms. And,
having a
He's
poo.
chosen every cliche, hasn't he, of somebody who's got a mental disorder of some type or whatever. He's just the rocking backwards and forwards is the most obvious one, isn't it? That you would think of as an actor, but it's
You want the rocking, you want the head, you want the hitting their own head, you want sudden bouts of aggression with no build up. Which
now,
it
hang
sounds
on.
like
Now you mentioned sudden bouts of aggression with no build up. There are a couple of instances of that in the film, which we'll come to in a bit.
yeah, we'll come to that later. But it's got every cliche. So even though they don't diagnose him in the film, it's like it's screaming, "I'm playing autistic. I'm playing somebody very high on the special needs register."
Yes.
Yeah, but it's watchable. Lee said this to me the other day. He said like you can't stop looking at him. It's it has you in that sense.
Does that make it a good performance from Travolta in that case?
No,
no.
Is it possible to have a good acting performance of a totally flawed character? A totally unnuanced character like Moose is. Is it? I don't know. Maybe it is. I don't know. But it's kind of committed. I'd say it's not a good performance, but it's a committed performance.
It's committed, but the material is so the material's limited. The writing and the material is just perhaps not there as it should be.
I mean, I know he started with him in Face Off, but it was a very Nicolas Cage-ish type performance. Nicolas Cage would have been perfect.
Can you imagine what Nicolas Cage would have done with this thing? Crikey! Do you reckon they offered it to him first? They might have done. Although I did notice Travolta's name again, as with Pay Dirt last week. Travolta is one of the named producers on this film. Yeah. And so that's got to be some kind of incentive for them to get involved with these projects.
A certain Everton chairman as well, Bill Kenwright, is in there as well.
That thing blew my mind straight away. But Bill Kenwright is is the chairman of Everton Football Club and he's a big enthusiast about theatres.
Theatre darling,
In
yeah.
the UK, and it's quite quite a wealthy chap. So yeah, to see this was kind of produced or co-financed by him was again, that threw me as well. It was like, hang on, is this?
Maybe he's mates with Fred Durst, who directs it, and he's a big Limp Bizkit fan.
Have we mentioned the Durst yet? Have we mentioned the Durst? I don't think we
No,
have.
we've not even mentioned Durst at all. No, yeah, we should explain
No.
who Durst is.
Yeah,
Let's have the Durst down.
The
yeah.
Limp Biscuits.
So Fred Durst, founding member of 90s alt rock band Limp Bizkit.
Are you reading that from? Are you reading
No, it
that from
sounds like
no, not IMDb, the other one.
To be fair,
Wikipedia.
to be fair to you, my knowledge of Limp Bizkit is so vague from the time. But they were like a band. If I heard them on the radio or I heard them in a club, I would have actually walked away.
Yeah.
But like I had to read like a wiki about them, and to remind myself how moderately successful they were.
Didn't they do the Mission Impossible 2 theme music? I think.
Oh,
I'm sure they did that.
Possibly. And which group did the? There was a cover of Michael Jackson.
Oh no, that's Alien
Smooth
Ant
Criminal.
Farm.
Who did that? Was that them? Or
Alien
was that
Ant Farm. No,
Alien Ant Farm, yeah.
Alien Ant
Farm?
Farm.
Yeah, no, I'm getting my.
I don't blame
It's a
you.
superior band.
It could have been them. Yeah.
But they're another band who's responsible for illiteracy in American youth, because Limp Bizkit's not even spelled correctly, is it? It hasn't got like a K in it or some crap.
Are you blaming the likes of Limp Bizkit and
for the American state
Linkin
education
Park?
system? Yeah, Linkin Park and Limp Bizkit, but Bizkit it's spelled, isn't it? But, yeah, I mean, absolutely. Yeah, awful band, and I actually listened to some Limp Bizkit after the film just to just to see if I was being a bit harsh, but no, they really were dire. So,
yeah, I mean,
that's
I
probably
can't pass judgment. I'm like you. I've really never heard anything that they've done. I've never sought them out, so I don't know what I'm missing. But yeah,
I don't think they were that big in the UK, were they? Really, I think they were more of a US band, really, weren't they? I don't think they hit it big over it.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly. And so Durst is the kind of the band leader. He's the lead singer.
Yeah, I don't know whether also he wrote most of it. He says the Wikipedia describes them as marked by Durst aggressive lyrics and some other guy in the band Sonic Landscapes.
Right.
Yeah.
Guys, the cover of the film, I don't know if you've seen it, but the poster for the film, to me, screams horror.
Yes,
it's marketed quite clearly as a horror film, and to me, it seemed as though it would be that kind of film where, a mentally ill person subjects a well-known celebrity to a series of horrors, and it wasn't really. It's not really that. I don't think it's really that at all. It's more of a drama, really.
Yeah, and it's also, I think it does wobble into dark comedy on purpose, but also then it also accidentally falls into dark comedy, black comedy.
It kind of goes horrific later on.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it more, but there's obviously, for me, that just seemed to come. It was just a bolt out of the blue. It just came from nowhere.
Yeah,
it was like,
yeah.
What is this?
No, it's horrific.
We'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
So we talked about the poo line. We've done the poo. We talked about Ken.
So he was.
Can we talk?
He was in the shop to buy collectibles, wasn't he? I think he was.
Yes.
The guy tells him about the book signing, and I think he buys that jacket from Space Vampires, which was an excellent film. Everybody remember that one?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, Lee. Space Vampires. I remember Space Vampires because
with Rico,
it was the original title of a mid-80s science fiction film, which ended up being called Life Force. Yeah. It was made by the Cannon Group. And it's like it was all filmed in England, and check it out. It's really, really good film. But its original title and the novel it was based on was Space Vampires, but they didn't end up calling it that. So I don't know if that's some kind of nod to the film Life Force. They don't seem. It doesn't seem to be. It might be totally random. But yeah,
Can you let
the
me-
jacket is supposed to be from that film.
Oh, is that a real jacket from a real? Yeah.
No. The jacket's not from the film, but
Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know if that's some kind of like odd film buff reference. Maybe that's what I thought. But yeah, it's a leather jacket. It says Rico on it. So
That's it. Yeah.
he says to the guy, "Oh, I got to
You-
buy it. I got to buy it." And
Yeah.
he says, "I can only pay $300." And the guy says, "You know what? Just because it's you, I'll give you the jacket.
Yeah.
And pay me back before the end of the year."
Yeah.
It
You know, so
totally
obviously
exploits.
Moose is liked by people, and I do kind of wonder why, as the film goes on. But it does seem that he is liked. People have a bit of a soft spot for him.
No, but I'm not sure if like this seems total exploitation of a special needs guy. Even he has this paparazzi friend as well, doesn't he? This girl who keeps on dropping in, who's also the voiceover woman.
That's
And she
right.
Leah.
Yeah, Leah. She keeps on dropping in. She occasionally does pointless exposition voiceovers for the film, and she uses him. She constantly pushes him towards being more of a fanatic, and then like she has a go at him for getting more obsessed with like Dunbar and films and everything. And
Yeah,
then the
'cause
guy in the shop,
I was just going to say, Rob, she introduces him to this app, which is like
Yeah.
map. It's kind of like an online map map of the stars, isn't it?
Yeah.
In Hollywood, where it makes it a bit easier somehow. I'm sure he would have known anyway, but it seems to make it a bit easier for Moose
basically,
to find his hero.
yeah, she basically sets him up to become a stalker. And
Yeah.
then she has a go at him for being a stalker. this is a guy.
She's the kind of person that would bake you a load of cakes and then sort of take the piss out of you for gaining weight. A few weeks later, isn't she? She's a total feeder, total enabler.
You've been eating
She is.
cakes, have you? And yeah, she's a bit of an oddbod, I think, because she's providing the kind of the narration occasionally
Yeah.
of events that she wouldn't have known what had happened.
Well, there's a really bizarre opening narrative, isn't there? About basically about Hollywood being the land of dreams, but really it's
Yeah.
it's the land of shit.
I'd even forgotten about that. Yeah, there is, and it's. I have to say, when I first put it on, I thought, have I bought the right film here?
Yeah.
When it started, I thought this is not the film that I've bought. Anyway, it quickly turned into John Travolta on a scooter riding down the road. So I thought, oh yeah,
humping his scooter.
here we are.
Can we mention it when he gets the Rico jacket? Just to remind us that he is special needs, he wears the jacket back to front, and Mr. Exposition, who's the man in the shop, reminds him he's wearing it. He reminds him he's wearing it the wrong way, and he goes, "I don't mind, I like it that way." And then he's riding round, and it's a really long. It's about 10 minutes of footage, isn't it, of him just riding around the dirtiest parts of Hollywood with the jacket on back to front.
And is this scene where there's a scene where he's riding around and he just randomly his kind of bike explodes.
Oh,
He just kind of falls onto the pavement.
So I think the next scene is he goes back to his flat, and then he's kind of rehearsing what he's going to say to Hunter Dunbar. I don't know if you noticed this, but there's a bit where he says, "Just say something," and he kind of stops himself, but he's going to say something stupid to the and they left that bit in the movie, which was weird. That was a bit of a goof, but he's kind of rehearsing the speech. Yeah, it was kind of. There's quite a few goofs in there, but that was one of them.
It's
So
really
that's quite a big editing problem, isn't it? Really,
Yeah.
just a bit of lack of care and attention.
But like Cal said earlier about this is somebody who's light, but and we start to question why. Because yes, usually if you had someone with special needs in the film, there's usually likable traits and people care and tender. But he plays him so hard, doesn't he? Moose is really unlikable. It's really difficult. He doesn't smile or he doesn't have much levity, does he? It's like really angry.
No humanity. Yeah.
Like I expect you two probably know autistic people as I do, and
Yeah.
they're most of the time they're perfectly, that they present normally, don't they?
Yeah,
People with
exactly.
autism for most of the time.
But he
So
doesn't.
sorry, I was just going to say, just on that basis, this depiction by Travolta is kind of a bit, well, it's false. It kind of rings hollow.
We don't.
You always know he's acting. You always know he's acting with Travolta. I think
Yeah.
that's the thing. If
Well,
it was
I think-
if it was Al Pacino or Hoffman or De Niro, you'd really buy them. You'd be buying them in the role. You'd say, yeah, okay, or maybe Val Kilmer. Val Kilmer might blow it away.
If Val Kilmer's back, is it?
I think if you're a part of the autism community, though, you'd probably be very thankful that this movie only made $3,000 at the theaters.
Oh, Lee, I'm
because,
glad you mentioned that. Yes,
Because if you've got a
ended up with
kid
very
in
limited
school,
release. Yeah.
Imagine if having a kid in school that has autism and kind of this had been a hit movie, it would have been an absolute nightmare for them.
It would have been like,
such a mean movie, really.
I mean, luckily, I think most films are hits by. Ultimately, they can be promoted, as well as they like, but without good word of mouth, I don't think a film could be a hit. And I mean, anyone who had gone to see this film would never have recommended it to, the person that they work with or, their family members.
Saying that, I was chatting to someone today, another couple today, and I was chatting to him, the husband of the family, and I was chatting to him, and I told him about this film, and I've gone and given them another viewer. Because I don't know whether I've done that guy any favors by saying watch the Fanatic, but people are curious. It is a curious.
Rob, you told him it's bad, right? You told him it's bad. You've not said this is a film. This is a must see.
No, I did say. I told him it would hurt. But it's a pain that you can live with.
You've given him all the information. He just he can make his own decision now, can't he?
I think it's seen Travolta play special. That's
you've lost a friend, Rob. You've just lost a friend.
We're not having any more restaurant meets with that Rob.
No,
not a chance.
That Fanatic weirdo.
But the fact is,
on, Rob. Sorry.
No, I was just saying, if it wasn't for you guys in this podcast, I suppose I would have never seen the Fanatic. So maybe there was fate intervened, and that's what gave an extra few viewers for the Fanatic.
I would never
Carl, really. Yeah.
I would never have seen Pay Dirt, and this was again. These films crop up in Sainsbury's, which is the only way I find out about them, and so that's.
You're trying to suggest that we're living in Sainsbury's, picking out, going through their bin
to see what's in there. You can just pop it.
It's not necessary to sell.
Moose would do. You're turning into Moose, aren't you, Rob? That's what Moose would just hang around in the shop.
That's
video.
This podcast is not sponsored by Sainsbury's. Other supermarkets are available. I should just point that out.
But if they want to sponsor us, we're very welcome.
We'll take anything you've got, definitely.
Throw some biscuits.
Beer and crisps, please.
Get a retweet, please. We could do this every week, couldn't we? Kind of just mention where we've seen or where we might have seen certain films and products. And
going back to Moose's ally in the film, he's supposed to be his great friend. You can see Moose is quite unhinged about how much he loves this Dunbar actor, and then she provides him with the complete guide to she provides him with a map to the stars, doesn't she? She provides him with an app. She sets him up.
Well, they break into that party, don't they? She's working the party where Dunbar's going to be, allegedly.
She's packing the party. She's getting the pics.
Yeah, Moose brings scissors to a bolt cutter party, and then she gives him a leg over the fence, and he's like, "Am I okay? Am I okay?" And he kind of makes his way into the party, and then he asked for a milkshake at the bar. Made with it real ice cream.
Now, really good point, because this scene, to me, this is the quality of the writing. A person with autism knows that in a bar, you're not going to get a milkshake. That is just stupidity. That's just someone who's not like a child.
Yeah. Well, that's what's it's another uncomfortable scene, is it? Because the fact is, this great friend of his, she hitches him over a wired fence.
Yeah.
A guy with autism. She knows he's probably going to not handle himself very well in this celebrity party.
Yeah.
And then she helps him get in. And
If they've
it
done this
doesn't.
before,
Yeah.
if they've done this before, this would have happened every single time. If that's how he is.
And then he finds Amanda, who he mentions she was great in Kill or Be Killed. That's another classic. Do we all remember that one?
Kill or Be Killed.
Kill or Be
That,
Killed.
1981 martial arts film with James Ryan, I think.
Are you suggesting that they used real titles then all the way through this, but titles for fiction?
There's an obvious one later, isn't there? Which we'll get to once we kind of come to the home invasion part of the film.
What we've not mentioned is that Moose puts on his finest shirt to go to this party, doesn't he?
Oh yeah.
And it's another hideous Hawaiian shirt, and and then he gets a stain on it, of course, and he's distraught by that, and he's angry. And then he's at the party, and of course, by being Moose at the party, they're not going to want him to stay because he starts becoming he starts asking for autographs and stuff. But,
yeah. I mean, they could have just really given him the autograph. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah, can we mention that
as well?
Yeah. It's this hostility shown towards Moose, isn't there? And I can understand us, the audience, being hostile because we're wondering why Travolta's playing him so badly. But it's like everyone in the film openly is hostile to him. Within seconds, there's no compassion, there's no build up. I don't know whether Fred Durst is saying this is Hollywood. Everyone is like shit, and it is. I've not been to Hollywood, but I'm sure not every single person can really just despise you on first glance and then not want to speak to you. Well, I don't know.
Funnily enough, in that scene, the actress seems quite warm, and the lady she's with is quite warm towards him. It's only when kind of the security staff come over. That, it becomes kind of an issue then when they have to kind of take him out of the building. But yeah, I agree. There is a kind of lot of hostility towards him, and I did think at the end of the film, I thought, what's the underlying message behind this film? Like, what was the writer thinking about when they were writing it? It's really difficult to say.
I read that it was based on some personal experience of Fred Durst's attitude to fame and Hollywood and celebrity life. I mean, but I can't imagine anyone being that bothered enough with Fred Durst and Limp Bizkit. But obviously there must be, to be that bothered enough to queue for hours to get the autograph of a bland band. But maybe there is. I'm sure there is Limp Bizkit fans, but
I don't know. So anyway. Moose goes to this book signing where his hero.
Oh no! There's a quick one before that. They go back to the flat, and Leah shows up at the flat.
Oh yeah,
and confronts him about getting kicked out of the party.
Yes,
and she basically mentions him acting like a maniac, and he says, "Oh yeah, Maniac. That's a great movie. Not that crappy remake. It's the new one I like." So he contradicts himself in that line because he's saying it's the first one was great, the second one was crappy. No, but it's the new one I like, So it's totally contradicted himself again. So another goof, just bad directing, really.
It's
bad directing by a lead singer of Limp Bizkit.
Yeah, who would have thought?
Do the funky, yeah.
We then cut to Moose in his policeman Bobby outfit for the first time.
Oh shit!
How could we miss that?
Can't miss that scene. That's amazing. So basically, Moose is working the Hollywood Boulevard streets. He's dressing as an English Bobby and putting on a Dick Van Dyke accent.
I was thinking of also Keanu Reeves in Bram Stoker's Dracula. There's a bit of that. Travolta's up there with those two.
And he rehearses, doesn't he, in the toilet mirror? He rehearses this impression he's got, where he keeps going, "Poppycock, meet the Beatles,
the Beatles are here,
Hollywood," and Yeah, and he's really honest to his profession. It kind of shows that obsessive nature, I suppose, that he is the fanatic. He's the fanatic about getting this right because he loves and he respects Hollywood, doesn't he? And he wants to give the tourists and everyone coming along the boulevard, he wants to give them a treat of meeting this, the celebrity world, the glamour. But and then and this is where guys want to mention the other characters he meets on the boulevard.
Todd the God and
Yeah.
Slim.
Oh God, yeah.
So they're doing like a grift. They're doing a kind of pickpocket regime where the Todd sort of does some fake blood on his nose and sort of imitates putting a kind of nail through his nose, and then the other guy does a pickpocket. So they've got a bit of a scam going on.
Yeah. And then, of course, Moose is appalled by these because it's completely against everything that Hollywood represents.
But it also seems as though Moose was previously a partner of what's the first character called?
Is it Todd the God?
He seems to be Todd.
Todd the
God.
Todd
the God.
He must have
not the bod.
Before it seems to imply that he'd done the stealing, he'd done the pickpocket.
It did, yeah. Because
I can
Todd,
imagine how that would have gone. I don't think he'd have stolen $1. To be perfectly honest, because he'd have been caught straight away.
And it has to show that Todd has got a drug problem, doesn't it? Because it shows that Todd is getting this money to blow it on drugs. Todd is everything.
Another aggressive character who, in a couple of other scenes takes out aggression on Moose.
On Moosey Boosey, yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
so yeah, thanks for that, Lee. I'm glad you were definitely taking extensive notes this time.
I just think,
not obliterate those scenes, but
I just think Lee's got an ident memory for bad films.
The thing is, I've been thinking of how I can rewrite this film, so it's got into my psyche, my being, and everything. So yeah, it's kind of taken over my life a bit.
I was thinking about how you'd rewrite this film to make it kind of effective, and I think maybe it's a really obvious trick. But
I would have gone. Yeah, we'll talk about it later. But there's a certain path I would.
The final questions at the end: how would we have rewritten that film?
Yeah, okay, let's do that. Yeah.
So should we get to the book signing then? Not the book signing, the signature. Yeah. So he's in the queue for the autographs, and of course it implies that he's been there hours. I think it even does the crap of showing a clock moving slowly and crap.
He does state later on that he'd waited for a couple of hours, but then he to exaggerate. I think he says 200 hours or something like that.
Yeah, Moose gets it wrong. We've been there hours, but Dunbar's getting ratty, and Dunbar quite innocuous, quite a normal thing to happen. Is his family life knocks on the door of him being a celebrity, doesn't it? So he has to deal with his ex-wife and his child who are waiting outside, and he has to talk to them.
The timing is not great of this event, is it? The timing's not good because this is just before Moose is about to get all his signed by Hunter Dunbar.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and it winds him up because he's dealing with his ex-wife. And then Moose follows him, and he's being quite polite, Moose, and very enthusiastic as he's met his idol for the first time, and he's saying how he loves all his videos, he loves all his DVDs. Can he sign this? Can he sign that? And straight off the bat, Dunbar is ultra aggressive, isn't he? He threatens to punch him in the face. He threatens to sign his knuckles in your face. Is the line or something?
This is what I didn't understand about this character because
No.
There are many scenes where he's kind of threatening violence, and he threatens and he threatens and he threatens. And I can understand that. For in one sense, he's like the, Hollywood leading man. He's probably, used to lots of people saying yes to him, no one ever saying no to him, and getting what he wants. And so you can understand that side of his character, I think. But yeah, he's aggressive a lot.
What it does is immediately remove sympathy for him. And you've already lost sympathy for Moose because Moose is a bit of a dick. So I read this somewhere else that who is the bloody protagonist in the film? There is no one to root for, is there? There's no one to actually. So straight away they've lost you.
One of the things that makes it quite a depressing experience. Once you kind of come to the end, you're like, what was I supposed to be? Kind of watching there, or how was I meant to be feeling? Although you don't like to be spoon fed these things.
Yeah, because it's quite normal. I mean, they could have made Dunbar sympathetic because he's dealing with like a broken down marriage and he's got, he's struggling and his fame is on the way, and so they could have made him more human.
He's got a child who's got a little,
Yeah.
got a kind of relationship going with, and it kind of shows a part of that relationship later on.
But because they made him such a dick at the beginning, they made him such an arsehole. He's so nasty towards somebody who's blatantly got special needs. Nobody in the right mind, even like a stressed out Hollywood actor, would initially threaten ultra violence on somebody with this much like level of autism.
And surely a Hollywood film star with some savvy would immediately think, I need to play this one. I need to play this one, coolly, because if the press get hold of this, they'll crucify me for being aggressive towards a fan. So,
if they shot this a bit differently, I think if it had been in a restaurant, perhaps with his wife, because he's kind of getting divorced from his wife, isn't he? And if they'd been trying to get back together, and perhaps like Moose had just sat down and kind of tried to get the book signed, then you would have had more sympathy for Hunter Dunbar. But at this point, like with outside, he's at a book signing, so he should expect to have to sign books, shouldn't he?
Or it's benefiting him in some way. And actually, he just bins off the entire job, doesn't he? At that point, he says
he does. He just bins it off, and he threatens to completely like beat up somebody with autism who's been waiting in line for hours, and who just wants a few items signed. Fair enough.
You're right. It's been quite polite. He's been quite polite, hasn't he?
At that point, he's not. Yeah, he's not even a fanatic at that point. He's just a fan.
What does he say now? Something, I'm going to sign your face from a fist, and that'll be a collector's item, or something like that.
That's it. Yeah, that's the line. And then Moose does like looks down at the floor, and he's like, that's the first little flash you do get sympathy for him. But then, Moose carries on being a dick, so that disappears instantly.
Yes. So that's their first encounter, and so that happens, and then
they go back to the bar. They meet Leah in the bar, and Moose asks Leah, "How do you find celebs?" So this is the bit where she introduced Lucy to the star. Is it Starfinder or Star Map or something?
That's
I think it's called.
Yeah, the Star Map.
Basically, she turns out to be an enabler, a bit like when you said, like somebody keeps on feeding fat people and they get fatter. She's like the lady washing the fat person. She basically, with a Brillo pad, she straight away tells Moose, and he's obviously getting more and more wound up about how he can find stars. I mean, she's not that stupid that she doesn't think Moose is going to use that app to hunt down Hunter Dunbar. But it's like,
yeah, it's kind of like giving somebody a handgun. There you can just play around with it. You'd be okay, you're not going to use it, are you?
Don't shoot anyone with it. Or anything.
Actually, to be fair to Leah, at the beginning, doesn't she say in the narration at the beginning that she kind of feels responsible for it all?
Possibly.
Yeah, you might be right there.
Do you think, Liam Rob, do you think they added the narration after the film was all over?
Yes,
and they
definitely.
watched the film and thought, some people are not going to understand some of the nuances of this, so we'll add a voiceover in a couple of parts just to. Oh, but Travolta,
it was almost like
holiday, the other actor Devon Sawa was off doing a TV show.
It wasn't a complex plot. We didn't need any guidance.
It wasn't. It was almost like they had a puzzle of a beautiful Monet painting, and then as they start putting the puzzle together, a big pile of shit appears.
Guys, it's like Blade Runner, isn't it? It's like Blade Runner. Whenever you see a narration on a film that seems odd, like why is this person narrating? It's probably a sign that they've added it later.
It's almost. I think it was almost Fred Durst just saying, trying to make the film feel more profound than it actually is.
Apparently, they put this film out for consideration for an award. I think they were going for the Oscar.
That's the best joke you said.
Interesting bits at the end, but it did win a couple of awards. Wow. Not even one award; it was nominated for 3.
Best hairpiece in a movie.
I'll tell you what they are. So
a few Razzies.
3 Golden Raspberry Awards.
Wow!
Sorry, no, it was nominated for 3. It was nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actor. And Travolta actually won the Golden
Oh,
Raspberry.
cool.
So
Good on him.
yeah,
Did he
well done.
attend?
You know, is that he walked home with the gold. You know, perhaps.
Royale with cheese, man. Royale with cheese.
Have you seen that Gotti film that he did? I think that was his last major one he did. Travolta. It was a total. I think it's got like 1 out of 10 on IMDb.
Oh, Gotti.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I saw that in the
Gotti,
video
yeah,
shop,
I've not
and
seen it.
I think that was supposed to be a cinematic release, wasn't it? It certainly didn't
Yeah, it's
come
like a
out
passion
in the
project of
UK.
his. Yeah.
Yeah. Goodness me.
So after this initial rash encounter and then her giving him the star map, of course, Moose starts rocking up outside Hunter's house, doesn't it?
Yeah, he writes a letter to him and shows up there, and they have a bit of a set too.
Yeah, again, I actually, this is the time when I actually sympathise because Hunter's got his child and he's a bit nervous, a bit jumpy, and I actually felt, fair enough, to threaten him this time. But he realised, maybe he should have realised the first time he threatened him it didn't work. So perhaps he should do more than just keep on threatening to punch him in the face. But
I thought it was because it leads to him signing his shirt, but I thought he was like stabbing him because they didn't really show it on camera, but he was kind of like lunging at his chest, and then he kind of
I think it is.
he was just signing. Yeah.
No, I think he actually does. He does. He signs his shirt quite aggressively, doesn't he? I think he does do a really aggressive, stabbing motion. But it's like a Sharpie pen, isn't it? So I don't know what type of stab that would do. Just like a little ink splodge.
A bit of ink through the shirt.
Yeah. They're not literally sharp. Yeah.
A good shower would take care of that. I'm not sure if Moose is the kind of character who would shower, but I think a shower would take care of that.
I think there was a bit of a method acting going on because Travolta did stink in it.
I see. Yeah, you just.
You see where I went with that one.
He did look. Yeah, he had his sniff fingers, didn't he, into everything? He's constantly sniffing his earlobes and stuff, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Or putting his fingers into food, and that's later.
That's horrible. Yeah.
You mentioned before that the box office take of this film was like $3,000.
$3,000.
Not $3 million. $3,000.
$50 a theatre, I think it was, or something like that. Yeah.
And
I think Travolta just brought it. I think it was only LA, really. I think I think to get an award, you have to have a theatre release. I think, if I'm wrong, I don't know, but I think that's the only reason it had one. Yeah.
Yeah, for the Golden Raspberry.
for the Razzers. Yeah.
Did you know though that the budget for this film is
$18 million.
$18 million. Yeah, you read it.
What?
$18 million.
Is that for Moose's hairpiece?
Film with Travolta in it for $1 million, $2 million. Where have they spent that money? Where is $18 million on?
I think it's because we mentioned the big biscuit in the room. I think they blew it on the soundtrack.
Yeah, $17 million goes to Limp Bizkit. Yeah.
We have to mention the best self promotion ever in a film I've ever seen. When father and son, Hunter Dunbar's driving with his son, and he starts regaling his son with listening to Limp Bizkit back in the day. And he doesn't call him Limp Bizkit. He says, "Do you want to listen to a bit of Biscuit?" I love the biscuit, and then he puts them on. It's the worst like 30 seconds of crap comes out of the radio, and he's like rocking back and forth, and he like looks at his son and goes, "This is good, isn't it?" And he's like, his son like sympathetically nods and smiles.
His son's not bothered, is he? His son's like, "Oh my God, you're embarrassing me, Dad."
I wonder if Fred Durst thought this is going to be a hit, this film, and because it's going to be a hit, I'm going to sneak in a little Limp Bizkit while no one's noticing, and subliminally, Limp Bizkit will rise again through the use of a song in this soon-to-be cult, mega monster hit movie. I wonder if that's.
But it was the new stuff as well. It wasn't even kind of like a classic. It wasn't even Rolling or one of their bigger hits. It was
too expensive.
That'd be copyright, won't it? Yeah, there'll be some copyright issues, won't there? Because Fred Durst he was the lead singer, wasn't he? And he got kicked out, so it'd be some legal issues.
Or it'd be like Fred Durst's Limp Bizkit.
Like Marty Pello sings "Wet, Wet, Wet."
Yeah, exactly like that.
So to get us back on track, Todd and Slim, we cut to a very nice looking Hollywood toilet. I believe they're not that nice in real life. And Todd and Slim are bullying Moose, so they kind of just generally taking the piss out of him. He's in his Moose is in his Bobby outfit again, and then the security guard Dick comes in and breaks it up. And I think this is the point really where sort of Moose starts to change, because he kind of gives him a bit of advice and says you're going to have to sort of learn to fight, stand up for yourself and fight
Yeah.
back. And from that point on, that seems to plant a seed in Moose's head about turning
Yeah.
evil.
He basically later gets confronted by Todd, doesn't he, to help him out with some money for drugs, and Moose totally snaps and pins Todd against the wall and starts going on about Freddy Krueger. I hope Freddy Krueger rips your head off and everyone watches.
He's definitely standing up for himself. He does fight back. He does start to fight back. But unfortunately, a bit later on.
Stalker is his trigger word, yeah.
Yes.
But this is the problem, is it? Because it's almost like they didn't have time, or they cut all the footage of like the gradual build up to psychosis. That they just thought they'd press fast forward and take Moose from just a gentle fan, fanatic who loves this film star, to like being a nutbag. And there was never any hint he was a complete. The performance doesn't give you that build up, does it? There's no. He just goes from that. It's just a light switch almost.
And do you know at the start of the film, before we saw Bill Kenwright, there were like 6 or 7 different film company logos that flashed up. And I thought, I wonder if when perhaps they started off with a script for this film to begin with, and then as the other backers came on board, perhaps someone said, "Oh, we want a bit of horror. We'll invest, but we want to throw some horror in here and a bit of gore." And said, "Okay, we'll pop some in there." And another backer came and said, "All right, this film doesn't really make much sense to us. We want the girl to narrate." And I wonder if this is how these things kind of come together when you've got this many kind of backers and producers.
Yeah, a lot of voices, and
there's too much being thrown into the mix, and it ends up just being a total hodgepodge, really. Like,
yeah, you get a lot of voices. A weak director, an ex-Hollywood star. Actually, it's quite appropriate hunting an ex-Hollywood star. You got an ex-Hollywood star in John Travolta, and he's completely given free rein, isn't he? Nobody's directing him. He's allowed to do what he wants.
Certainly not. No.
So we cut to another terrible scene where he shows up again at Hunter Dunbar's house, and he's got a letter in his hand, and he sees the maid, and the maid starts whacking him with
with like a brush duster. Yeah.
Just before we talk about what happens to the maid, there's a scene a little earlier on where it seems to imply that the maid and Hunter
used to have a relationship, yeah.
Sort of had an affair.
Yeah,
this possibly is the reason why he's separated from.
Yeah, and then and Hunter makes a call to his agent or somebody and says, "I kissed the maid again." So it's like it's a confession that he's been there before. Yeah, he's done it. Yeah,
down, she's going to be.
Is that supposed to? I don't know what. Again, is that supposed to make us dislike Hunter, that scene, or is it supposed to make us think fit the pieces with why he's married? I didn't get that scene at all.
I don't understand it. To me, it didn't make him sympathetic, that scene. I thought.
No, again, it's another reason to think he's a shit.
In on the help staff.
So
Moose does this expert palm strike on the nose, and then from nowhere.
From nowhere. So you're watching this film; it's a bit of a drama, and then like he wrestles with the maid over this stupid letter, and he does a palm strike to her face. She falls to the ground, and the director, to show us that she's dead, what does she do, Lee? how did
a nosebleed. I've had one of that's really bad. That's really bad. A nosebleed. I've had one of those. And you're telling me that anybody over the age of 2 would not know that somebody was dead if they were unresponsive and bleeding? It's just completely stupid.
And we, the viewer, know she's dead because her eyes are open and she's just lying there. But
although Moose is supposed to be now looking, fighting back, looking after himself. I thought this was a bit, although he's, as we said, the character's not that particularly well drawn. I thought it was almost out of character for him to kind of respond in that way to her.
Yeah,
I,
the violence he showed towards her because she was obviously he never like yeah, fair enough. He is a bit nasty towards Todd, but Todd has been awful to him, hasn't he, all the way through the film?
He doesn't really show the violence towards
Yeah,
Hunter later on
Todd. Yeah.
that he shows towards her. It's almost like a
So
plot. It is, well, we find out later it is a kind
yeah,
of plot mechanism.
so he's killed her. He's killed her, and then he just instead of panicking, you'd imagine Moose would panic, wouldn't you? Panic and like run away or something, but he doesn't. He just calmly breaks
Human
into.
being would. Yeah.
Yeah, he calmly breaks into Hunter's house and starts enjoying, seeing everything that Hunter's. Like Hunter's, he picks up Hunter's toothbrush and brushes his teeth. He goes on the piano and sings like a bad rock and roll song, and it's like he goes, yeah, and it's really cringy, and he wanders around and keeps on putting Hunter's clothes on and watching, sitting in Hunter's chair and everything. It's
I noted that there's one little sequence here where he starts singing "Stuck in the Middle." He kind of goes, "Stuck in the middle, stuck in the middle."
Oh, that's later.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's from Reservoir Dogs, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I thought it's definitely a nod to that. Sorry, that's later on, isn't it? Yes, of course.
Well, we're heading. Yeah. So he's. Yeah, I mean, so basically he's murdered someone. He's just dancing around the house and enjoying the.
Make us think that he doesn't know. He's not aware that
he's not aware it's a murder. Yeah, and he's just dancing around the house and he hides in a wardrobe, doesn't he? Yeah, that's it.
Well, did you notice the bit where he picks up that script and he said, "This is not a good script," and I just burst out laughing. I was like, "Yeah, it's not a good script." Right?
Did you see what was on the front? It was the Fanatic, wasn't it? He was reading.
That was his copy of the script. He had to have it. He couldn't be bothered learning it, so he just had it around.
Oh, was it Pay Dirt? That's one of the two.
He rejected Pay Dirt to do the Fanatic.
So he's he hides in the wardrobe, and because Hunter's like wandering around, he gets back late at night, doesn't he? And Hunter's a bit wasted, a bit emotional, and has some drinks, and he sits down in he sits down in a chair, doesn't he?
I think he's got 2 different sleep medications as well. So he's drinking and taking his sleep meds, and
that's it, yeah. And Moose, when he's asleep, Hunter in a chair, Moose starts doing selfies, doesn't he? He starts taking selfies with Hunter. So there is...
sniffing his ears and stuff like that. Yeah, just generally sniffing him.
And he chooses to, again, it's so, dispassionate view of autism. He chooses to sleep in the chair next to the person whose house he's broken into, whose maid is killed. People with autism or special needs are aware of reality. They're aware of these things. And Moose chooses to sleep in the chair next to him.
And he has this kind of flashback moment, doesn't he, to his childhood where he's watching Night of the Living Dead as a young kid. Yeah. It's all black and white, and then in the background, his mum's kind of a bit of, I don't know if she's a bit of, the hinting at she's a bit of a drunk. She's like, seems to be a bit drunk.
Going out with the guy.
She's...
boys on the TV. Probably seen it in a billion other films. That kind of
but
that's the only backstory we get, isn't it? To his life is that 5 seconds.
Yeah, and it sounds like they want us to believe he could. They want us to believe that he's gone from the Moose we know, or what we didn't know, to being Kathy Burke in Misery, in the space of 10. Not Kathy Burke. What's the actress called who played the woman in Misery? Not Kathy Burke. Kathy, what's she called? The American actress who played Misery Woman. Kathy Bates, that's it. Not Kathy Burke. That's I am smoking a fag in it. I want a brown baby. Yeah, but it's like Hunter wakes up, and we don't know how. Obviously, the filmmakers couldn't be bothered to show this. Hunter wakes up tied and secured to a bed by his arms and legs.
Oh, hang on, because doesn't he return home?
He goes back to, he meets Leah. They're at a kind of outside cafe, and she confronts him about the selfish. She says, "I can't believe you've posted that on social media." Yeah. And she's kind of kicking off about that. So really the next bit happens after that. So I think she calls him a stalker, and he sort of storms off.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not a stalker.
I am not
Again,
a stalker.
he's getting triggered again.
How long has this maid been dead for though? Because she's dead
Yeah,
for a long
about 3 weeks. Yeah. In the middle of the garden, not hidden in a bush. In the
Yeah.
middle of the garden.
This dead maid.
They find her eventually, don't they?
Yeah, I know that celebrities live coveted lives behind like ivory gates and stuff, but come on, a big dead maid in the middle of the garden. Somebody's going to notice, aren't they?
Rob,
Uh,
Andy, something that you just mentioned, Gates. Something that occurred to me was Travolta tried to break in or broke into the house about 3 or 4 different times. I kind of lost count.
Oh
But
yeah,
I
yeah.
thought it was funny that at the start, Hunter Dunbar has got these huge gates at the front of his house that no one can get through, and all Travolta seemed to have to do after that was kind of just sneak in round the side, and it worked every time.
It,
There's no security at all. Yeah.
Effort
It's
required
not.
at all. And there's a
Yeah, and-
there's a big gate, a camera. But
yeah, it's pointless,
if
isn't it?
you go up the side of Hunter Dunbar's house, you can just get in. There's a little gate.
You know what? I bet it tells you that stuff on the app.
There's that bit where his maid, before she dies, tells him there's been somebody lurking around in the back garden, and he's not concerned. He's just, oh yeah, it's probably the gardener. It won't be the kind of guy who's been stalking me for the last 3 days. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, he's atypical, and he has like Mexican gardeners, and he's like a bit rude to them, Hunter, isn't he?
Oh yeah, he's
So,
repulsive to them, isn't he?
Yeah.
Especially the guy.
Yeah. So he's
There's
again.
a bit where Moose Burns. I mean, how does he get this flat? This amazing flat he's got in Hollywood. I mean, the rents there are astronomical, aren't they? He's got this fantastic open brick, spacious flat, projector set up.
Yeah. Moose is dependent on the hawking he does on Hollywood Boulevard, and it shows him being crap at it. And nobody.
Isn't there a scene earlier on where the girl doing the narration, who's his paparazzi friend, kind of says, "I'm supporting you." Isn't there a scene where she kind of says something like, "I'm supporting"?
Oh
you?
yeah, but that's just a weird situation, isn't it?
Is she giving him money in some way? I don't know.
If they made that character like a niece or something, or a carer, that would have made more sense. But you just couldn't buy this. He's nearly 7. Travolta's nearly 70. She's like could play a high schooler, and you just can't really buy this relationship. They really seems to be like. I mean, there's one bit where he's like hand feeding her a chip, and there's like a really close relationship there, but. It seems to be, unless she's using him in some way, I don't know. I think she mentioned something about him finding the celebs and she photographs them or something. So maybe there's this mutually beneficial.
Yeah. But also, I think it's part of Durst's vision.
Part of Durst's vision to really have a sketchily relationship.
No, I honestly think his vision was that to show that even people who seemingly seem good, everyone in Hollywood is out to get you. Everyone is corrupt. Everyone is an exploiter, and the whole place is is a shit show. And I think that's what he. So even someone like her is like she makes some money off taking photos, a paparazzi, isn't she? She takes photos of boob shots and underskirts and stuff. She's a pretty horrible character, but with a soft spot for Moose. Or does she have a soft spot for Moose, or is she basically using him? Well,
I had to look at what BBF was because there was a few explanations of it. One was best butt friend, and the other one was best buddy friend or something. So I'm not too sure. I don't know what best butt friend is. It sounds a bit rude. I don't know.
If that's
big
what
boob flowers.
They left that on cutting room floor. We don't want anything like that.
So are we heading towards the? Because this is what we're probably going to.
He burns the jacket. He burns the jacket, doesn't he? He burns the $300 Rico jacket.
What's the space transvestites? Was it space?
He's there crying, isn't he? He's like, anybody could do acting, and I kind of anybody could do your kind of acting, Travolta, at the moment. This is ridiculous.
This is a terrible script. It's gone on meta, and now he's kind of like anyone could do acting.
So So, guys, we're heading towards this is the film this is the part of the film which everyone will remember if you forget everything else. The horrible last act,
Yeah.
where Moose is, as we talked earlier, he's broke into the house, but he's quite a big, strong, heavy man, Dunbar. Yet when Dunbar fell asleep in the chair, he's managed to secure him in a bed with hands tied and legs tied and ropes across him.
They
Not
don't
only
show it
that,
though, did they? That was so annoying that they didn't show how he. I mean, they hint it because he's got his tablets and a beer at the side of the bed,
Yeah.
but they don't show how. You'd still wake up.
It's so impractical because like the size of Dunbar and stuff, he's not a little guy, is it? And it really is that misery moment, isn't it? You're waking up in the bed with like all tied and gagged, and you don't know what's going on, and then somebody enters the room.
I hadn't
Yeah,
even made the misery connection there, but yeah, there's definitely that going on, isn't there? Yes.
And
yeah, because
he wakes up with tissue paper in his mouth. I don't know.
I
Or
was just going to
ketchup
say that,
or
Lee.
something.
Yeah. How did he not notice? How did
yeah,
he not notice, even while asleep, someone stuffing paper in his mouth? Just, just talk
maybe maybe it was caught. Maybe it was cut, but that's Dunbar's it lives on paper, and he eats bad scripts.
Something.
I wonder what he was dreaming about. If he was dreaming about a really terrible meal, and he's just like, "Oh my god, this meal tastes of cardboard," and then he kind of wakes up and it's just this paper in his mouth.
Oh, this
And when
shaved
he
cheese
does
is so hard. Yeah.
he does. I mean, I think Durst let his actors improvise because he does do the obvious when he wakes up, like he's mumbling what the fuck he's because he's got no script. He keeps like because the script is in his mouth. He keeps like going what, and then Moose, but Moose is wearing what mask is he wearing, Carl?
Oh, is it a Jason mask?
He's wearing the
Yeah,
Jason mask. Yeah,
Jason Voorhees, isn't it? Yeah.
he's wearing the Jason Voorhees mask, and he's got the knife, and it's like, and he
Fake
pretends to stab him, and then he starts laughing that he's a great Moose, like saying, "See, I'm a good actor. I'm a good actor." and then it gets to Dunbar. As most people would, you realise you're in a very vulnerable position. It's not worth getting this person angry. He starts sympathising with Moose, doesn't he?
Yeah, he starts giving him a bit of a sort of actor's breakdown of sort of visualization, doesn't he? Of it'll be me and you and watching some good sci-fi movies and a bowl of chocolate ice cream. And he's like, "No, I want strawberry." He's like, "Okay, yeah, strawberry
Yeah,
ice cream."
yeah. It's
Get me out of here.
it's actually it's not a nice moment in the film, but basically you think that okay, he's going to get him, and then he'll get there may be you think there may be some type of scuffle, but you think that obviously he's going to eventually coax and dissuade Moose from this action of like what he's done. But then I don't know if anyone wants to lead how this horrible twisting nightmare starts in the film, like about 5 minutes later.
He unties one hand, and then Hunter sort of takes the knots off the other hand, and then immediately proceeds to grab a weapon.
Is it a shotgun?
I can see a shotgun.
Shotgun.
He blows. He basically fair enough. Put the guy's broke into your house. Fair enough. Like maybe knock him down and punch him, but to actually torture him and blow his hand off with a shotgun,
Yeah.
and then kick him down the stairs when he's in massive agony, and then well, I don't know if anyone wants to lead on the next bit.
Who's going to talk about this bit? I honestly.
Well, he fires his he fires his rifle on each side of his head, which I think would have been enough to that you could have stopped there. Before you blow his hand off, fire the warning shot.
Gone and blown. He knows this guy's autistic. Yes, we know Dumbo. He knows he's autistic, so now he's going to blow his eardrums and blown his hand off, and not to mention the injuries of throwing him down the stairs. And then the next hideous bit, the really cruel. It's totally unnecessary. The next part, it actually made my stomach churn a bit, even though I know it's a bullshit film. He finds a carving knife, doesn't he?
Well, yeah, he grabs like a Rambo knife from. It's like he's been preparing for this his whole life. He grabs his Rambo knife from the. I don't know about you guys, but I've got a Rambo knife in my side drawer, definitely.
And and you think, and then I'm watching this because now I expect anything from Durst. I think, well, maybe that's it. He's just going to kill him, but no. Instead of killing him, he tortures him further because he just stabs him in the eye. He just cleanly stabs him in the eye, and it cuts to the obvious hand over the eye and loads of blood pumping out.
Mm.
But then the worst part of it all, after all that horror, he then lets Moose stand up and he calmly holds the door for him and he pats Moose on the back almost and says, just lets him out into the night.
He actually bandages his arm up as well.
Yeah. It's at that point where he thinks, oh, you know what? Maybe I've gone too far.
Oh yeah, after blowing his hand off, blowing his eardrums and stabbing him in the eye, maybe I've took it a step too far.
He did promise that he wouldn't call the police, didn't he? He kept that promise.
Oh, that was good of him, yeah.
So yeah, he could have called the police. He let him go.
And Moose shuffles his way home back to Hollywood Boulevard. We don't know how close Hollywood Boulevard is, but he's managed to walk all this way to the Boulevard. And it's probably miles and miles if you think about where stars would live.
Should you buy the pavement, the Hollywood Walk of Fame that he's covered in blood on the way?
So he's probably walked about 15 miles with his hand missing and his eye dripping, and then people, all these fans, these tourists, start gathering around him and complimenting him on his makeup and how realistic he looks and taking photos.
People at Hollywood, the true face of Hollywood, the policeman act, the British Bobby act wasn't doing the job, but now he's blown off and his eye stabbed.
And it's at this point, that the world's shittest friend turns up, doesn't she?
Oh yeah. And the other thing is she doesn't care where he is. She finds him completely by accident.
This is it. Throughout the movie, everybody finds themselves immediately, don't they, by accident? It's just like screech to a halt the car, and there's Moose.
LA, by all accounts, is quite a big city. So,
yeah, what's it? A city of 14 million people or something, probably more. Or something. Yeah.
So she finds him, and she goes, "Oh, Moose, we have to get to a hospital." She realizes that he's been messed up by his stalking, which she basically caused, and then the worst part is the last wrap-up scene with Dunbar.
The worst part, Rob.
No, I still can't get over how Fred Durst West how he possibly could think that this would explain the whole film. So basically, the police knock on Dunbar's door, and the gardener points at him, saying, "Yes, he's my boss," or whatever. And at that point, we know he's implicated for the murder of the maid. Are we supposed to, at this point, not assume that the guy's not going to say, "Oh, I had a nutcase in my house, and I blew his hand off and stabbed him in the eye, and his fingerprints and blood are all over the house"? Is he really just going? Fred wants us to believe that he takes the rap for the murder of the maid.
Yeah, he goes down. Yeah. Moose survives completely. He's gonna go. You'd think there'd be some CCTV outside as well, wouldn't you? Some cameras.
He's got cameras all over his house.
This is a Hollywood film star. Earlier on, they showed a camera quite clearly at the front of his house. Are you telling me that there would not have been a running camera to show Moose totally murdering the maid earlier on and then running off?
He's covered in somebody else's blood that isn't his or the maid's. So
there's also Moose's fingers all over his carpet upstairs.
Questions, wouldn't it? The other thing I thought is, Moose gets away and she says, "Oh yeah, he lost his eye, lost his hand," but
and he adapted, or he
took it as what's
a badge of honor, was it?
Badge of honor. Okay.
And does it cut to like some really terrible, shocking animation? So in Moose with a hook for a hand.
Pirate basically.
Yeah. It shows Moose as a pirate doing really well on Hollywood Boulevard.
I think the guy who did the drawings was he's out of Limp Bizkit. I think he's like the one who dresses really weird, the kind of bassist, I think, or something. I think he did it all.
Right, he's getting his mates involved.
But I don't know if you noticed right at the end, instead of it like her helping him into the car and straight to the hospital, they're kind of just wandering down the Walk of Fame, and they kind of just stop to kind of look at a star. And I think he sort of points at one of the stars and says something about
It's Louise Fletcher.
Louise Fletcher, she's not a good nurse, which is like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah, that's
So Durst has to get a final quote in at the end because he thinks like quotes equals like good reviews if it like
It's
triggers you.
also it's also he's trying to scream to people that he actually has an appreciation of film. And he's got a knowledge of film and actors and actresses. There's a few name drops all the way through the film. But sorry, Fred. After seeing that film, I still think you're a pile of shit, and I still think your film's awful.
No, it's funny you mentioned that final picture of Moose. If we go back to that, she's pictured in like an angel wings and a halo. So I wondered, is that hinting that she's not a real character? That she's like a kind of Joker's girlfriend? You know,
she's his guardian angel.
Yeah, she's his guardian angel because she doesn't interact with any other characters, does she? And it's really weird. It would explain it if that was.
She's the worst guardian angel ever, isn't she?
She's like the opposite. Guardian devil,
You have to get stabbed in the eye and your hand blown off.
Misery devil,
So, Liam, I was thinking about this. I was thinking about Hunter Dunbar. So, to begin with, he's an unpleasant character. He seems aggressive with everyone he kind of encounters. Certainly people who he employs and with Moose. We see him in a couple of scenes with the maid where he seems quite, I don't know, tender and affectionate. There's a scene with him and the boy, his son, where again he seems like a relatively normal person. And then his character arc just kind of goes off to becoming a complete sadist. Has Hunter Dunbar done this before? Has he shot people before? Has he killed anyone before? It just seems like completely maniacal.
Yeah, the level of violence.
Do you think Durst is trying to make some comment on these films that we're watching are corrupting us in some way and perhaps are leading us into violence? You know, the fact that Moose has grown up on horror films and Dunbar's been acting in them, like as if there's it could cause you to have an unconscious violence in the heat of the moment. Or so, do you think he's trying to make some deeper point, or am I reading too much into this?
No, I think you're right. I think he's
Dunbar is believing his own publicity because it did show a clip from one of his films where he seems to be an action movie star.
Yeah, sort of action star. Yeah.
He started to believe himself. What his character on the screen has become him. But there's not enough to kind of to suggest that, I don't think. But that might have been the intention.
I think I think it is, and I think he's basically saying to Moose with the violence, is this what you want? Is this what you want to see? Is this what you want? You know, and he's dishing out every horrific thing that we see in these films, but the film doesn't build you up for it, so you're not prepared for it because it so comes out of the blue. You know it's not going to end nicely, but you don't expect the cruelty and the torture, do you?
No.
It's
I was just going to say that it's the violence towards Moose. I found the scene with the maid a bit odd and jarring, but I thought the scene with Moose was just from another film. It was
ugly.
I mean, they mentioned some other films like Saw, and they mentioned and actually showed Night of the Living Dead as well.
Yeah.
But it just seemed totally out of place to me. It was almost like we need a horror angle to dress this film up as a slightly horrorish film on the poster. So we're going to add.
It's almost like Durst's wank fantasy about what he would do to somebody who broke into his house or something, isn't it? It's kind of like I'd end up getting myself in trouble because I'd probably like shoot one of you crazy guys, and then I'd get in trouble for it. It's almost like his kind of wank fantasy.
And Rob, you said earlier about the, who's the protagonist. I mean, you get to the end of the film, you're like, well, let's just evaluate what's happened. Moose has killed someone and invaded someone's home and tied them up. And what's his penance for that?
He's brutally tortured.
He's just got away scot-free.
Yeah.
And what's happened to the hunter? The hunter, he's presumably he's taken the rap for killing the maid for no good reason, and yeah, that's it.
So
It's
what
just
happens what happens in the Fanatic 2? Do you think we have Dunbar gets out of prison? He's got a sawn-off shotgun. He's
Well,
stalking.
whichever the protagonist is, or whichever the protagonist is intended to be, or maybe it's both of them. What do we take from that? There's nothing I can think of logically that Moose accidentally killed someone, so he's been arrested, or I mean, I suppose he had his hand blown off and he lost his eye, but
I wasn't sure what I was supposed to be feeling throughout the whole movie. I wasn't sure whether I was supposed to be sympathetic or laughing or shocked. So I didn't find there wasn't much tension. When he was in the house, was I meant to feel tense and like, oh, he could come back at any point? And I wasn't sure. The bits where he was like walking around in the background, where Dunbar was in his house, was I meant to be creeped out by that? It was just a car crash, watching a slow motion car crash. Really, that was my only emotion.
I mean, and if you compare this to our film from last week, Pay Dirt, I think overall, I mean, this film is similar to Pay Dirt. It's 90 minutes. So I guess it could have been cut down from a long film. I'm not sure though, because the credit roll at the end, and I only noticed it because I was really tired and I wanted to go to bed. If you watch it I watched it on a streaming service. It was £1.99, by the way. I think
wow! Was it worth every penny?
Ask for it back, but yeah, it was. The credit roll starts at like 81 minutes.
Jeez.
And it lasts till 90 minutes. So that's 9 minutes of that film gone. And you mentioned before the kind of the endless scenes of Travolta on his scooter before it kind of explodes.
Oh yeah, that's a good 5-10 minutes. It's like
5-10 minutes as well. So I don't think they can't have had like masses of material that they had to cut out. I don't think so. I can't see it, especially if they're adding it with credits and scooter sequences.
Personally, what I would have probably done is cast Travolta in the B-movie star, playing himself almost, and then have Devon doing the other role, because he's played that in Stan Eminem video already, and he did pretty. I know it was only a music video, but he did a decent job in that. So he knows how to play it, and you could have had it from Travolta's perspective and made him a more sympathetic character, and then he's been stalked by this more. And just cut autism out of it completely. It's like having a Down syndrome serial killer. It's just such a bad choice.
It leaves a bad taste throughout the entire film. It never shakes off, and especially with the other material that kind of clashes with it so badly, so badly, like the kind of violence and.
If it was me, what I would have done was cut all the fat out. Basically, I would have removed all those other characters, just make it a really narrow film, just central, just with the two characters. And I agree with flipping the two characters. I think Travolta would have been better to play like a version of himself.
Yeah.
And they have the other guys, the hunter and the stalker, and just have him straight, not with any Down syndrome or special needs. And not to be so obsessive with the politics of like the whole idea that Hollywood is a swole pit, and this is what you get in Hollywood. It's been done to death, that, and we didn't need to see it, did we? Just do a straight like misery film, but it would have been called a misery rip-off, but it would have been a lot more entertaining.
If they'd gone down more of a sort of social media angle, I know they touched on it with the selfie and stuff like that, but they could have had like Moose catfishing, Dunbar and pretending to be a female online and that would have been amazing.
That would have been good. I'd watch that.
But I think there's a movie there. I think we're ready for another stalker film. I think there's been some good ones over the years. We're ready for an update with social media, because everybody puts their lives online now, don't they? So it's crying out for it.
Yeah, there are lots of good stalker films. Misery. There's one called The Fan with Robert De Niro and Wesley Snipes. Wasn't great.
King of Comedy.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, that's good.
And so I really agreed about the Travolta, like basically playing himself. It would have been very kind of meta, and I think it would have been.
It was like
It might have
It'd
been
be like a
well enough
Van Damme.
if they'd have done. Yeah, Van Damme did it in the JCVD, didn't he? And
Yeah.
that got lots of awards and lots of accolades, and it kind of revitalized his career. I
Yeah.
wonder if it had been done well enough, this could have done something similar for Travolta, who's had a very up and down career all the way through his
To be
Hollywood.
fair to him, like Lee was telling me that he channeled his son Jet, who he lost through had autism, but he plays him so one dimension, doesn't he? And also the poor guy's lost his wife recently, so he's gone through a lot, hasn't he? But
He's had a lot to do with very
I
sad.
tell you what would be a really good film if they did like they went back to the Grease characters and we see what happened to to the teddy boy from Greece. What was it?
What
Was it?
happens to the people who are popular at high school? You know what happens.
Yeah, it'd be a fat loser, wouldn't he? Somewhere. What would
They're
it
all
be?
down the pub every
So
night, and
was it?
they got 7 kids.
What was his character called? Was it called like Danny Zuko or something? So like we see Danny Zuko or whatever his name was.
I've
He's like a
never
cat.
seen Grease. Full disclosure, I've avoided it so far.
He's like a car park attendant, and Sandra Dean left him like 30 years ago, and
Lee,
he's
if your bag is watching 40-year-old blokes dress up as high school teenagers and sing songs, then Grease is the film for you. It really is.
it's the word.
Grease is the word, man. Yeah.
But that, if they made that film, that would get box office. That'd be crazy.
Grease.
Yeah, because he went so out of fashion, didn't he? He had the Look Who's Talking films in the 80s, and then he kind of went into obscurity, and then Tarantino brought him back for Pulp Fiction, and then he was cool again, wasn't he, for like 5 minutes? And I think he managed to shoot, was it Battlefield Earth in 2000, the Scientology movie? That killed him again, didn't it? Yeah.
Although he did in some the odd kind of popular film.
I love Broken Arrow and I love Face Off.
Face Off is amazing. Yeah, I will fight people on Face Off. It is fantastic. Yeah.
We were talking about like alternatives to the film that we saw. I think are really obvious. I mean, this does sound obvious, but one thing I thought they could have done, if they wanted to include some horror, was they have a film whereby Moose, stalks the guy for a long, long time, but they had to make the hunter character more accessible, more kind of friendly, like a nice guy.
Yeah.
And I think they could have done a twist around at the end there, where Dunbar actually turns out to be
A nutcase.
suicidal maniac with a past.
Yeah.
And and that's when he kind of turns the tables on Moose and does blow his hand off, sticks the knife in his eye, whatever you want to have him do. And that would have been, although it's a bit obvious, perhaps, it could have been a different way to handle the film.
Yeah. Like Moose breaks into the house and there's somebody tied up in the basement, and he finds out there's this real dark, never meet your heroes, there's this really dark side to him or something. Exactly. This is the kind of movie that makes me really think that I could write a screenplay, because I couldn't do much worse than this.
How did they get it so badly wrong? How did they get something like this so badly wrong with so many possibilities, so many different ways to handle it, and they chose this?
I think you're both missing the point. I think there's a long game with this, and this is the Fanatic 1, and there's 9 parts to it.
Do you think then this is the kind of thing that in 20 years' time, like people now, like I'm a Blu-ray collector. I look at films that companies are putting out that are like 20, 25, 30, 40 years old that I've not seen for years, that I think, I'd like to see that in like a really nice restored edition with loads of extras. Do you think in 20 years people are going to be clamoring for a restored edition of the Fanatic where there's a commentary by Moose, offset making of behind the scenes Bill Kenwright? Is that, are people going to be looking for that in 20, 30 years time?
Oh, they go complete goofball comedy, and the next film's called Weekend at Moosey's. Weekend at Moosey's 2.
Mate, we need to like that. We'll get Travolta on board. We'll tell him he can produce it. and
Yeah, he could put Scientology in it or any shit.
give him his scooter and his hair and his syrup, and he'll be away. He'll be very happy with that.
So should we? Are we going to say whether we're put? I mean, it's kind of obvious, isn't it? We don't need to go around each other saying if we're putting it in the morgue or putting it on the train. It's not going on the train to Busan, is it?
I'm not going to put him on the Dawn of the Dead helicopter out of the shopping mall. Definitely not.
I'm going to put it slightly higher shelf than Pay Dirt. I'm going to put it on like one shelf up from Pay Dirt, but it's still in the basement of the morgue, I think.
And I just want to say for anyone still listening, like we are going to start choosing, just by pure chance and the odds, we are eventually going to hit a film that we all like. One day.
Promise.
Will. No, guys, this film goes into the fucking morgue. No question about it. It's awful. It really leaves a bad taste as well, which I really don't like.
Yeah, I did think about it for days. Actually,
it's I think there might have been a good idea at the start, but it's clearly been like pulled and pushed and stretched and changed and this, that, and the other, and it has just become.
I wanted to give Travolta a hug and say things will get better, mate.
I don't like Travolta in this film, but I think I like Travolta. I think I do.
I think we need to watch him in Saturday Night Fever in his glory dancing and just remind ourselves that he was once a star.
A really good Travolta is Blowout from 1981.
Oh yeah.
Brian De Palma.
Need to watch that.
He's really good in that. And there are a few others as well, of course. Pulp Fiction.
So Pay Dirt joins the Fanatic in the morgue. This morgue's going to be filled with bodies, isn't it?
Yeah. So the morgue now has two corpses.
One is missing a hand. Yeah, as a bad
One's got no voice, and one's missing a hand and an eye.
Okay. Do you have any ideas for what we should watch next? I mean, we've gone straight to video route twice here, and
we have had a chat about doing a horror classic, haven't we? Or
I was thinking if we're doing horror classics, we were talking about Night of the Living Dead earlier in the week, and Night of the Living Dead's referenced. We've not really mentioned it very much, but it's referenced in
so
Fanatic
many horror films.
a few times. Then they show clips from it as well, and that's because it's free. It doesn't cost them anything to show that film.
It's public domain.
So I don't know. My ideas were either Night of the Living Dead or this might be a bit trickier to find at the moment, but because we're the Manchester Morgue podcast, we could do Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue. Those are my two ideas, but I'm open to suggestion.
I was thinking about Rosemary's Baby because I've not seen it for years, and I remember it giving me the absolute creeps when I saw it years ago, and to see it now from the perspective of with a bit more of an adult sensibility. I saw it as a teenager, Rosemary's Baby.
I'd be open for Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah, but it's the devil's child. So I'll be up for that.
Did you have any suggestions for our third podcast? I can't even speak. Third podcast.
Maybe Nicolas Cage. I don't know, some kind of Nicolas Cage movie. He seems pretty.
Oh yeah.
One of his classics.
What's the vampire one? The one where everyone always raves about him being really over the top in the vampire one he did. Good look at that one.
The Vampire's Kiss.
Vampire's Kiss, yeah, because I saw that last year, and it is brilliant.
Like 80s, isn't it, that one?
Yeah, it's 80s, yeah. And Vampire's Kiss, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm sure whatever it is, it'll be good. I'm sure it'll be better than this film. I'm sure we'll try and pick a decent film. Yeah.
Yeah, one that we don't have to consign to the morgue. The morgue has limited space.
Yeah.
And,
the train to Busan's got loads of cabins free.
Because remember, there are 3 levels. There are the morgue, there's the Living Dead, which is like the middle, kind of 6 out of 10, and then there's Escape to Freedom. You're a survivor. So we've not even had a Living Dead yet.
That's true.
So thanks everybody for tuning in again, and just give us a like or a comment. If there's anything, constructive criticism, or if you enjoyed the podcast, let us know. And we'll be on Twitter all week and posting about different bits and bobs. And I hope we'll see you soon.
Okay. Thanks very much, guys. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye bye.